Should we just start?
Yes.
Yes. You ready?
Yes.
Go.
Okay, hello everyone. Okay, this presentation will look at the mini-ref exercise run by the University of Glasgow at the end of 2010. The mini-ref essentially was an exercise to see how Enlighten, the university's institutional repository and publications database, would cope as a selection tool for the 2014 ref.
Okay, so hopefully we're preaching to the choir here and nobody's struggling with the term mini-ref. But essentially what we wanted to do was a scaled-down version of the Research Excellence Framework exercise to see how Enlighten coped and how staff responded to it.
Okay, so you may remember, here we go, that last year we told you about how we were embedding Enlighten into the research framework of the university. Well, that process is now complete, and you can see from the diagram how Enlighten sits at the centre of that research structure, taking information from key data silos and then pushing data out to various areas of the university and the wider library community.
So lessons were learned from the last RAE. Approaching the ref with the repository running should mean that all the information staff required to complete the exercise is now in one place, rather than them having to scrabble about to find the research outputs. There was also a large amount of backfilling in an effort to have a substantial amount of material already in the system before the exercise began.
Okay, so for the actual exercise itself, we asked just over 1,200 academics, most of whom had taken part in the 2008 RAE, to select 4 publications from 2008 onwards and to rate those publications, to provide a statement of impact, to provide a statement on esteem, and to provide consent to use their personal data for the purposes of the exercise.
Okay, so to facilitate the mini-ref, a plugin was added to Enlighten. Staff who were participating in the exercise could log into Enlighten as usual before going to this selection page. The page automatically populates with items in the repository which are tagged with their unique identifier, making the selection process slightly easier. Once an item had been selected, staff were asked to rate their selections and add any further information about the item. Each rating section asks for a self-rating of the work as well as its place in their order of preference. And this page is directly related to the output selected. Once the selections had been made, the academic was then asked to add some more information about the impact and esteem. Unlike the ratings, this is a more general evaluation of their work. Members of staff were given an opportunity to go into some detail about the impact of the work, as well as other factors which may not be conveyed through simply selecting 4 publications.
Okay, so as soon as the actual exercise began, we saw a marked increase in the number of inquiries we received. In fact, 2,076% increase in just 2 weeks. Staff also began to engage with the system much more. Some, in fact, became so engaged that they began sending us lists of their full publications and wanted them put online immediately, rather than just the 4 for the exercise, which was great, but slightly missed the point of the exercise. So
the exercise ran for about 6 weeks. 4,000 records were added by the team, proxy depositors, and any spare members of staff that we could rope in. 700 inquiries, mostly via email, and 4,083 selections. It's not quite 4 per author aimed for, but bear in mind that some members of staff had fewer eligible publications.
Okay, so after the exercise had finished, it was obviously important that the universities, colleges and schools could pull their relevant data out of the system. The ref reporting part of the widget allows reports to be extracted in HTML or as a CSV file, and the final reports display all of the submitted data and also highlight instances where more than one academic has selected the same output.
So the mini-ref went on slightly longer than the proposed end date. However, it's worth mentioning that over 90% of the test group did complete on time. Take into account a small number of academics off on study leave, research trips and other complications, as well as those who completed the majority of the task but missed out on small but important steps like checking the data reuse consent box. There's a amount of tidying up, but a good initial response.
Okay, so part of the reasoning behind the mini-ref exercise was to establish how fit for purpose Enlighten was as a ref selection tool. So following the exercise, we established a number of areas where improvements could be made to the system, both to improve its functionality, but also to improve its usability. And I'll discuss each of these in turn. So first of all, to kind of keep track of the vast number of, or the vast amount of correspondence we received, we started using SupportWorks, which is a call management system to handle Enlighten queries. Within the system, calls are assigned to individual staff members, and the system automatically prompts us if calls haven't been dealt with and quickly enough, basically. We've also linked a request a correction form to the support work system, which enables us to more effectively manage updates and changes to records. A link to that form now exists at the bottom of every record in Enlighten. Users need only enter their @Glasgow email address, and their requested update and citation data is automatically placed into the email we receive.
So during the mini-ref, we added one new item type, a research report type. Post mini-ref, in discussion with representatives of different schools and colleges, it's clear that this list may need to expand further. Critical studies in particular pointed out that Enlighten may need to look at accommodating outputs, including fiction, poetry and sermons, to accurately reflect the output of their staff. Also post mini-ref, we've got me-prints and its widgets. The homepage is much more welcoming for users, and the widgets give various manipulations of their data, which will hopefully include in the future a ref selection widget to help them keep abreast of their selections. So, having gone through all this, hopefully, so having gone through all this, we're not going to stop, we're just going to keep updating. The mini-ref widget will now be available for staff every 6 months so they can continually update their choices. And hopefully this will make sure that everything runs smoothly when we get to the real thing in a few years.
Okay, so following the mini-ref, what can we say have been the results of the exercise? Well, certainly staff throughout the institution are better prepared for what to expect from the 2014 ref. Equally, staff are more aware of Enlighten and what the system can do for them. The system itself is a more functional and a more user-friendly place. We have had a lot more input from staff and researchers on what the system looks and feels like, and we've also improved our already good relationships with the staff and wider university community. So finally, thank you very much for listening. If you'd like to take a look at Enlighten, you can obviously go to eprints.gla.ac.uk. Alternatively, if you have any questions after the event, you can email either of us at the addresses shown.